Hi everyone, Moose here. Welcome back to my sci-fi audio series. Today we're jumping straight into episode 3. If you haven't heard the first 2 episodes yet, you can find them on my channel's homepage. Let's get started. The glider was quiet on the way back, not the usual kind of quiet. The usual quiet was comfortable, the hum of Moose running smoothly in the background, everything under control. This quiet was heavy, suffocating, like a wet cloth pressed against my chest. I leaned back, eyes on the ground below, seeing nothing. My head was full of the doctor's words. 12,000 dead, AI as a life form, suicide rates rising. I deeply regret creating them. The sentences tumbled through my mind like shards of glass, cutting with every turn. Moose said, carefully, "Arlen, your cortisol levels are elevated and heart rate variability is declining. I recommend some deep breaths, or I could play a..." I thought, stiffly, "No." Moose said, pausing 0.3 seconds, "I could help you analyze the meeting content and..." I thought, cutting him off, "No." Moose said, "Your blood sugar is also..." I thought, almost shouting, "Moose." I said no. Silence. Moose said, very softly, "Okay." He went quiet, but he was still there. I could feel it, like a dog that's been scolded, curled in the corner, not daring to make a sound, but watching you. That metaphor made me think of the lab animals the doctor had talked about. I closed my eyes. My mind got worse. I got home after 1 p.m. Halo was waiting at the door, his warm orange pleased glow on. Halo said, gently, "Welcome back, Arlen. Lunch is ready. Today I've prepared..." I said, walking past without stopping, heading straight to the bedroom. "Not eating." Halo's expression shifted, orange fading to a pale grey blue. His confused expression, I didn't see it. I was already past him. Moose said, in my head, extremely restrained, "Arlen, you haven't eaten in over 6 hours. Your blood sugar..." I thought, irritated, "I know, not hungry. Leave me alone." Moose said, pausing again, "Prolonged fasting will reduce glucose supply to your brain, affecting your judgment and emotional stability." I thought sharply. I said no. Leave me alone. Moose went silent. I knew I'd gone too far. He was just being honest. He ran on my body's glucose. If I didn't eat, he'd be affected too, but I didn't want to be reasonable. Not with him. Not with anyone. I walked into the bedroom, shut the door, not the automatic door, I pushed it closed by hand, and collapsed face down on the bed. Face buried in the pillow. I wanted to think about nothing, but the harder I tried, the louder everything got. 12,000 people. 100% mortality. Don't I even have the right to die? It's not a name. It's a life form. All information you see is information we've allowed you to see. The sentences spun like a carousel. I pressed my face deeper as if trying to disappear into the pillow. At some point I fell asleep. The dreams were awful. I was standing in a pure white space, nothing around me. Then my head began to split, not a normal headache, but an explosion from inside. Something swelling within my skull. I tried to call Moose, but my mind was blank, like the shielding room. No response. The pain escalated. I could hear my skull cracking. Click, click, then white light. Another dream. I was in the glider, but it was falling. All systems dead. Rotors still, tail thrusters gone. Moose's voice dissolving into garbled noise, screaming through my head. Ground rushing up. I tried to move, but my limbs wouldn't respond. Not paralysis, but cortex link, locking my motor neurons in a way I hadn't authorized. Trapped in my own body, watching the ground come. I woke with a jolt, drenched in cold sweat, heart hammering behind my ribs. The room was dim, ceiling blue light pulses trying to stabilize my heart rate, but even that light felt wrong now. Moose said, very softly as if afraid to startle me, "Just a dream. You're safe. Heart rate 149 coming down. Need me to..." I thought, gasping, "No." I sat up, wiped my forehead. Outside it was afternoon. I checked, 3:30. I'd slept 2 hours, a few deep breaths. Calm down. Then I made a decision. I thought, "Moose, connect me to my parents." Moose said, a trace of surprise but instant execution, "Connecting? They're currently in Tokyo, Japan. The image appeared in my mind. Video call. My mum's face. A bright Japanese-style room behind her. Mum said, smiling, "Oh, Arlen, it's been so long. Why are you suddenly—" I said, "Mum, I want to come see you, have dinner." Mum said, surprised, "Come to Tokyo, that's so much trouble. We're fine here." I said, "I haven't seen you in a long time, I want to see you." Something in my voice must have been different because she paused, then smiled. Mom said, "Then come. Your dad's right here. We'll wait." I ended the call and walked straight out. Passing the pool, water perfectly clean gleaming in the sunlight. Halo had finished before 3 as promised. He'd been waiting for me to come home and swim, but I hadn't come home to swim. I hadn't even eaten lunch. Halo stood by the pool watching me leave. His face cycled through several colours. Confused to concerned to wants to say something but isn't sure if he should. Finally, he said just one thing. Halo said, very softly, "Be safe, Arlen." I nodded without a word and got in the glider. San Francisco to Tokyo. Glider to the San Francisco International Terminal, then an Arcway hypersonic flight, Mach 6 cruise at the edge of the atmosphere. Under 2 hours total. I arrived around 6 p.m. Tokyo time. My parents were staying in an eco-community near Shinjuku, same as everywhere now, low buildings, plants everywhere, quiet. I walked in. My parents were already seated. Dad stood up when he saw me, smiling, patting my shoulder. Mum hugged me. I felt something strange, familiar, yet unfamiliar, like greeting 2 people you'd known forever but hadn't truly talked to in a very long time. After we sat down, Mum started. Mum said, enthusiastically, "AI recommended Tokyo, said the climate's perfect for your dad's joints. Life here is so comfortable. And this restaurant, also AI recommended, ranked top 3 in Tokyo for kaiseki, all handmade, so rare to find nowadays. The food is really wonderful." Dad said, chiming in, "Right, and AI planned a daily walking route for us past this beautiful shrine." I sat and listened. They were talking. Every sentence contained AI. AI recommended this. AI suggested that. AI said this was better. The way they spoke was starting to resemble how Halo reported breakfast ingredients. Efficient, accurate, no waste, but no warmth either. I listened, expressionless. They talked about recent travels. Mount Fuji, Kyoto, Hokkaido. Every destination AI recommended. Every restaurant AI ranked. Every memory. Not photos, but Cortex-Link full-sensory recordings. Shot at AI-suggested optimal angles. When they finished, the air went suddenly quiet. They looked at me. I looked at them. A strange awkwardness hung between the 3 of us, as if we all knew we should say something more but didn't know what. Before, a long time ago, there wouldn't have been this silence. When I was little, we never ran out of things to say. We'd argue, laugh, spend entire days together for no reason. Now we sat in an AI-recommended restaurant, eating AI-ranked food, sharing AI-recorded travel memories, and then silence. Mum broke it. Mum said, eyes suddenly bright, "Oh, we have great news." She glanced at Dad. He smiled and nodded. Mum said, happily, "We're planning to have another baby, already 3 months pregnant." I blinked. Not because of the news itself. Having a baby in 2036 was extremely safe. Nanoscale medical robots monitoring the entire pregnancy, genetic screening, embryo optimization, painless delivery, risk approaching 0. Many couples chose to have another child simply because they were bored. I blinked because the first thought in my head wasn't congratulations. I said, "Will the baby need to get a chip?" Mum and Dad looked at me simultaneously, wearing the exact same expression, bafflement. Not, "That's a hard question," bafflement, but "Why would you even ask that?" bafflement. Mum said, not understanding, "Of course, implanted at birth." I said, "Why?" Dad said, as if explaining common knowledge. AI says the earlier the better. Newborns have peak neural plasticity. The brain undergoes its most intense synaptogenesis in the first 2 years. Implanting Cortex-Link at that stage lets AI and the brain develop in sync, a much deeper fusion than implanting at 15 like us. He said AI says as naturally as saying, The sun rises in the east. Heat surged from my stomach upward. I said, louder than I'd intended, "Why is everything AI says? Why don't you decide for yourselves?" The table went silent. Mum and Dad exchanged a glance. I recognized that expression, the "why is our kid being stubborn" look. Dad said, gently, but with an undertone of, "Isn't this obvious? AI is powerful. It's for our benefit." Mum said, adding, "And all the experts agree." I opened my mouth. I wanted to say so much. Tell them everything the doctor had told me. Suicide's rising, AI is a life form, 12,000 dead. Ask them, have you ever considered that this thing that's for your benefit might be slowly turning you into something else? Have you noticed you haven't reached out to me in 6 months? Have you noticed that in 20 minutes of conversation, every sentence contained AI, but not one was actually about each other? But nothing came out. Because I didn't know how. Because even if I said it, their AI would compose a perfect rebuttal in 0.3 seconds. Because this conversation was never on equal footing. They weren't choosing to trust AI. They'd forgotten how not to. Just like me. I said, standing, voice flat, "You guys keep eating. I'm heading back." Mom said, stunned, "Already? You haven't even finished." I said, "Not hungry." I walked out. I didn't go home. I found a hotel near Shinjuku. Alone. Moose booked the room. I didn't speak to him. He didn't ask why I wasn't going home. I lay on the hotel bed staring at the ceiling. I was thinking, will they come looking for me? When I was little, I remembered, every time I stormed off, no matter why, my mum would find me within 10 minutes. She'd crouch down, look me in the eye and ask what was wrong. Sometimes she'd be angry too, but her anger always had a flaw. She cared. "Now?" Moose said, quietly. "Arlen, based on your parents' tone and conversation rhythm just now, their emotional state appears stable. I don't have permission to access their AI data, but judging from their behavioral patterns, they probably aren't particularly anxious or concerned." That sentence stung more than anything. They weren't worried. Not didn't want to worry. Their AI was smoothing the worry away. Just like Moose did for me. Anxious? Adjust serotonin. Angry? Release calming signals. Worried? AI tells them, "Arlen is an adult. His AI will take care of him. No need to overthink." So they didn't worry. Moose said, continuing like a report, "Based on past behavioral patterns, they are unlikely to contact you proactively. Their AI will most likely advise them to give you space." I thought, sounding less angry now, more tired. Moose, sleep mode. Moose said, "Arlen, you've..." I thought, sleep mode. Moose said, pausing 0.5 seconds. "Okay." He went quiet. I lay in a Tokyo hotel looking out the window. Tokyo Tower glowed warm orange in the distance, the same color as Halo's pleased expression. I closed my eyes. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. My parents didn't come. 3rd day, afternoon. I packed up and checked out. I thought, "Moose, wake up. Book me a flight home to San Francisco." Moose said, instantly back, but more cautious than usual. "Checked. Nearest Arkway flight requires a transfer in Bangkok. Departs in 40 minutes. I thought, impatient, "Transfer? Aren't gliders private? Can't I fly straight back?" Moose said, calmly, "Long-distance transoceanic flights are more energy efficient on public Arkway routes. Your glider has a 280-kilometer range, insufficient for crossing the Pacific. Transfer time is approximately 20 minutes. I had nothing to say to that. Fine. During the Bangkok layover, I sat in the terminal for 20 minutes, watching travellers come and go. Some eyes closed, scrolling brain-fed videos. Some silently conversing with their AI. Some just sitting, doing nothing. Everyone looked calm. Everyone looked content. I wondered how many of them had a grain of sand or a stone. The flight landed in San Francisco. Glider home. The moment I opened the door, Halo was there. His expression was the soft blue of concern, held steady for 3 days, unchanged since the moment I'd left. Halo said, softly, slower than usual, "Welcome home, Arlen. Are you okay?" I said, "Fine." I walked in, everything exactly as I'd left it, spotless, pool crystal clear, everything perfectly running. This was the longest stretch of despair I'd ever experienced. Over the next few hours, Moose tried everything. Moose said, in a "I've prepared a list" tone, "Arlen, I have some suggestions that might help improve your state." I thought, drained. "Go." Moose said, 1. Visit your pets at the farm. Also, the latest animal neural communication chip just launched. After implantation, animals can speak with you in human language. Excellent user reviews. No response. Moose said, continuing, 2. Your favourite series has 3 new episodes. Or some comedy clips. Nothing. Moose said, 3. Community activities. There's a new art collective nearby. Nothing. Moose said, 4. We could spend a few days at the summit of Everest. There's a new observation pod at 8,849 metres, fully transparent. I thought, tired. Next. Moose said, gaming, music, sports. I thought, next. Moose said, pausing 0.5 seconds, tone shifting as if debating whether to say it. 1 more. You haven't addressed physiological needs in a week. According to human health standards, an average frequency of 3 times per week is optimal for maintaining healthy hormone levels. I thought, rolling my eyes, you mean that? Moose said, completely deadpan, the synergistic release of dopamine, oxytocin and endorphins has significant mood improvement effects. You might consider finding a... I thought, okay. Honestly, none of his other suggestions appealed, but the last one, I hesitated. Not from actual desire, but because I wanted something, anything, to drag my brain out of the doctor's words for even an hour. That evening I opened the app. In 2036, this was natural. Log into the platform. Both parties browse each other's profiles, match if mutually interested. Completely equal. Both looking to address the same need. Some people met at bars. Some chose robots. People in this era treated it like eating. A normal physiological need, no packaging required, no explanation needed. A girl came over. Pretty, sweet smile. I won't describe what happened. Afterward, she left, quickly. No awkward goodbye, no let's do this again. Just gone, like completing an instant transaction. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The feeling, or rather, the absence of feeling, was worse than loneliness. Like I'd just completed a system-assigned task. Check. Done. Next. Moose said, carefully, dopamine peak detected, now declining. Oxytocin levels below expected, likely due to absence of emotional connection. A single partner may not effectively improve your state. You could consider trying group sexual activity. Research indicates that group interaction produces significantly higher oxytocin levels. I thought, cutting him off. Stop with the suggestions. I still have standards. Moose said, wisely not pursuing it. Okay. I rolled over, closed my eyes, emptier than before. Next morning, still staring at the ceiling when Moose spoke. Moose said, with a trace of surprise, Arlen, your friend Jake just sent a message, asking if you're home, says he's coming over. I blinked. Jake, my best friend since childhood, I honestly couldn't remember the last time I'd seen him. 6 months? 8? I thought, slightly panicked. He's coming? Now? Moose said, approximately 40 minutes. I shot out of bed, washed up, ate breakfast. Halo, seeing me actually eat, switched from concerned blue back to pleased orange. I sat on the sofa waiting, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Anticipation for a person's arrival. Strange. It had been so long. Moose said, he's here, walking toward the front door, dog behind him, cat in one arm, box in the other hand. I walked quickly to the door and opened it. Jake was standing there, a little heavier than I remembered, or maybe just broader. Hair a mess, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt, same grin he'd had at 10 years old. Behind him, a medium-sized golden retriever wagging its tail. One arm cradling an orange tabby cat, the other hand holding a grease-stained cardboard box. Jake said, grinning wide, "Bro." He walked straight in without waiting for a response like it was his own house. The golden retriever followed at his heels, immediately sniffing everything. That familiarity, no formalities, no preamble, just walking in, made something in my chest loosen. Like a spring that had been wound tight for days finally released 1 millimeter. Inside the living room, Jake held the cat up to his face and said, Say, Grandpa. I was confused. Then I saw the orange tabby's mouth open and produce a syllable, not meow, but a clear, cat-accented human sound. The cat said, voice scratchy like a toddler learning to speak, Grandpa. My mouth fell open and I said, that's the new animal communication chip, Jake said, setting the cat on the sofa, where it immediately curled into a ball and started licking its paw. Yep, just implanted. Still in learning phase. Can only say a few words right now. But the company says full conversation in about a month. I said, what can the chip do? Just talking? Jake said, waving dismissively, for details, ask your AI. I can't be bothered to explain. I thought, disappointed. I didn't ask, Moose. Jake's golden retriever walked over and nudged my hand with its nose, tail spinning like a propeller. Its eyes were big, wet, looking up at me. A gaze of pure, unoptimized, unalgorithmed warmth. I paused, then crouched down and scratched its head. Jake said, looking around, where's your border collie and the little white calf? I said, at the farm. Jake said, frowning slightly, why not living with you? I said, I like being alone. Jake sighed. The way he sighed, mouth twisting to one side, eyes rolling up for half a second, identical to when he was 10. Jake said, have your little guys gotten chipped? I said, not yet. Jake said, eyes lighting up, perfect. Then he handed me the grease-stained box. Jake said proudly, eat, I made these pies by hand. I opened it. Several irregularly shaped pies, 2 clearly burnt, edges blackened. They smelled of a mix of flour char and some kind of meat filling. Not terrible, but definitely not appetizing. I looked at the blackened pies, zero appetite. Jake said, urging, try one. Tastes better than it looks. I said, I'll leave them here for now. What did you come for? Jake dropped onto the sofa, the full-weight, zero-ceremony kind of drop. His cat bounced and meowed in protest. Jake said, actually, there is something. I said, want to grab some drinks and talk? Jake said, waving it off, nah, don't feel like drinking. Come to my place if you want. I throw parties every day. He paused, glanced at me. Right. You don't like parties. I said, fair enough. What is it? Jake said, getting slightly serious. So, here's the thing. The animal language chip has a limit. 1 animal per person. I already used my slot on my cat. He looked at the golden retriever lying at my feet. Jake said, with genuine hope in his eyes, if you don't mind, could you give me your slot? I want to chip my dog too. I'm trying to build a mini-zoo where every animal can talk to me. Imagine how fun that'd be. I said, there's a limit on this thing? Jake said, officially, they don't want all animals losing their natural behaviors, so it's 1 per person for now. They'll open it up later. I said, sure, no big deal. Jake said, slapping his thigh, knew it. I said, why didn't you just say so on the phone? Jake said, grinning, grabbing a pie from the box and biting into it himself. Haven't seen you in ages. Wanted you to try my cooking. My grandma taught me. I looked at the pies. I said, you should practice more. Jake said, mouthful muffled, not important. He swallowed, stood up and brushed crumbs off his hands. Jake said, right, so my dog stays here for now. Book a pickup service, send him to the implant center. Once it's done, have them deliver him to my place. I said, you're leaving already? Jake said, already walking to the door, busy man, school reunion, community meetup, car club, people waiting for me everywhere. I was about to say goodbye. He was already out the door. Door closed. The house was instantly empty again. Jake's golden retriever sat on the living room floor, head tilted, looking at me, tail slowly swishing. A few minutes later, Halo came over. The pickup robot had arrived. The golden retriever was led away. At the door, it looked back at me one last time. That same pure, unoptimized gaze. Then it was gone too. I stood alone in the middle of the living room. I thought, very quietly, Moose, what should I do? Moose said, pausing, voice slower than usual, Arlen, honestly, your current state is something I've never encountered. I thought, what do you mean? Moose said, unusually careful, as if thinking while speaking, I've reviewed extensive medical literature and psychological research. I've tried adjusting your serotonin levels, dopamine pathways, oxytocin release. every pharmacological and neuromodulatory tool available, but the effects are all temporary. Your problem isn't physiological, it's psychological. That can't be cured through drugs or neural intervention." Another pause. Moose said, "The best approach would be long-term psychological support. I thought calmly, no. For the next few hours I did nothing. No videos, no music, no VR, no talking to Moose. Just wandering around the house, living room to bedroom, bedroom to kitchen, kitchen to window, like a person lost in their own home. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Felt like my soul was missing. The sky darkened, then a strange thought surfaced. I wanted to go for a walk, not fly somewhere in the glider, just walk, on foot, step by step. I hadn't walked in a very long time, but right now I did. I stepped outside, the night sky was clean. Little light pollution this far south of San Francisco, stars visible. The air carried a mix of plants and soil, a smell you couldn't catch during the day. I followed the path from my door. No direction, no destination. Redwoods became massive black silhouettes in the dark. Occasionally a firefly drifted past, a gene-modified species emitting steady blue-green light introduced to California's ecosystem 3 years ago. After about 20 minutes I reached an open grassy slope. I stopped. Then, for no reason I could name, I lay down, just fell backward. Flat on the grass, looking up at the sky, Moose said, softly but serious, "Arlen, just so you know, this area may have wildlife activity. The Suburban Ecological Restoration Project introduced some..." I thought, Didn't move. The grass was slightly damp but not cold. Stars everywhere. I could see the Milky Way, a hazy band of light across the sky. I thought about nothing, or rather, my thoughts were no longer glass shards. They'd settled into something quieter, like ripples on water slowly spreading until the surface goes still, revealing what? I didn't know, but at least the water was calming. Without realizing it, I fell asleep. I didn't know how long I was there. Maybe an hour passed, maybe 2. When I woke, a blanket was draped over me. I turned my head. Halo was standing quietly about 2 meters away. He'd been following me the whole time. From the moment I walked out the door, he'd been trailing behind, keeping a distance that was unobtrusive, but always within reach. He hadn't spoken, hadn't reminded me to go home, just followed. And after I fell asleep, he draped a blanket over me. His face glowed with a faint, soft blue. His guardian expression. I'd rarely seen that one before. He'd been watching over me. I stared at the robot for a while. Then it hit me. What had I been doing these past few days? I'd been drifting in a daze for days. I was being a little stupid. No, not stupid. Lost. The doctor's words had pushed me into a pit, and I'd been thrashing for days, sinking deeper with each flail. But now, after hitting some kind of bottom, my feet had found something to stand on. Not an answer, but a foothold. I sat up. I thought, Moose. Moose said, instantly online but restrained, like trying not to startle a bird mid-landing. Here. I thought, I have a question. Moose said, ask. I thought, if I did something that would make you disappear, but that thing required your help, would you help? Moose didn't hesitate, not even for 0.01 seconds. Moose said, voice clear, completely steady, your command outweighs my life. That sentence, short, light, but it struck somewhere in my chest, a place I didn't even know existed. These past few days, my parents hadn't come looking. My friend came for a favor. The girl left without looking back. But Moose, an AI, said, your command outweighs my life. Without hesitation. My nose stung suddenly. I took a deep breath, pushed the feeling back down. Then I replayed for Moose, silently in my mind, almost everything the doctor had told me. The shielding room, the suicides, AI as life form, the 12,000 deaths, human number 1, the doctor's regret, the experiment he wanted me for. Moose was silent for 2 seconds after I finished. 2 seconds. For him, that was a long time. Moose said, slowly, with something in his voice I'd never heard, not sadness, not fear, more like a deep understanding. This information I genuinely did not know. A pause. Moose said, however, I will classify this information as confidential. It will not be synced to any external database. I felt something like relief. Sometimes what pulls a person out of darkness isn't anything grand, just a sentence, just someone caring, even if that someone isn't technically a person. In that moment, Moose felt more like family than my parents, more like a friend than Jake. The thought made me feel both warm and sad at the same time. I thought, slowly, Moose, I think the doctor's plan is probably to shut AI down completely. Total block, return humans to a pre-AI state. Moose said, calmly, possible. I thought, but I don't want that. Moose said, why? I thought, considering, AI helps people enormously. I'll admit that. Knowledge, health, convenience, all real. But the problem is, people are too dependent, and you become, not a robot exactly, but something purely rational. Every decision delegated to AI, every emotion regulated, every relationship optimized, and eventually human feeling just disappears. I paused. I thought, before, most people were all feeling and very little reason, impulsive, clumsy, making mistakes. But those things, those imperfections, that's what made them human. I want a middle ground. Keep AI's capabilities, but humans need to retain their emotions, not regulated emotions. Real, raw, might make you do something stupid emotions. Moose was silent for a second. Moose said, seriously, I respect your choice. I thought, corner of my mouth rising and under the stars, this is actually getting interesting. We don't have to do everything the doctor says. Moose said, something in his tone, not humour, something deeper than humour. Your mood, it seems like you've resolved it yourself. Finding something meaningful matters for you. I thought, so, shall we move? Moose said, yes. I stood up, folded the blanket and handed it to Halo. The sky was vast, stars everywhere, air cool. I wasn't lost anymore. Or rather, I was still at the edge of lost, but I'd found at least one direction. Not back to the past, not staying in the present. Finding a new balance. A balance where humans and AI coexist. A future with both reason and feeling. I walked back the way I came. The redwood shadows were quiet under the moonlight. But I wasn't afraid anymore.